So when it comes to sports, the NBA is by far my favorite sport. I've always loved basketball. I played basketball as a youth. I'll tell you a funny basketball story later on in this video, but I've always just enjoyed the game of basketball. Of course, growing up in the 90s, you had Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan. It was the prominent time for basketball to really be a big thing. And every year I pick up NBA 2K on the Nintendo Switch because, I mean, somebody has to review the game, right? Now, last year, NBA 2K21 was definitely a game I did not enjoy. I hated what they changed with the game as far as the shot stick mechanics were concerned, and it really just made the game not fun to play. Recently, we've seen a lot of third-party developers kind of make just crappy ports of their games on the Nintendo Switch, and I was afraid that NBA 2K22 was going to be that sort of game, sort of like what FIFA does with the Legacy editions on the Nintendo Switch, a simple roster update with none of the other stuff added into the game that was added into other versions of the game. Well, I actually picked up NBA 2K 2022 because somebody on Twitter tagged me saying that they heard that there was problems with the Nintendo Switch version of the game, and I was like, here we go, you know, it's going to be one of those crappy ports on the Nintendo Switch. But surprisingly, it's not. It's actually a really good game of basketball, and it almost feels like NBA 2K 2022 is one of the best NBA 2K games that I've ever played since the original Dreamcast. So what's changed in NBA 2K 2022 on the Nintendo Switch? What has been added into the game, and what do I think about it? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video. As always, it is F. Trae Young. I can't believe that dude was on SmackDown the other night. And let's talk about NBA 2K 2022 for the Nintendo Switch. So I know a lot of you guys are interested in the other game modes that are involved with NBA 2K 2022, but I usually don't play these because I didn't find them fun. NBA 2K21 story mode for the My Career stuff, I just didn't like it at all. I thought it was really boring. I thought the story was stupid, and I just didn't like how the game was laid out. But I decided to check out My Career mode in NBA 2K 2022, and surprisingly, it's a lot better. You basically start out by picking a college, you play in the NCAA tournament, and then after that, it's sort of graded on how well you do in that as to whether or not you're going to be an NBA draft pick, go undrafted, whatnot, so on and so forth. But one thing that I believe is brand new to the version of NBA 2K 2022 is the draft combine. So if you don't do that good in the NCAA tournament, you could still impress people in the draft combine by doing some different drills. Now the drills just basically have you pressing different buttons and stuff like that. I actually didn't get any footage of it, but it was actually pretty decent because I like the fact that you can sort of control your own destiny even if you didn't play too well in the NCAA tournament. Of course, then you get drafted to an NBA team, and then you get this weird thing where it's like a neighborhood, but it's on a boat. There's like a big boat, like a big yacht boat. And like, this is where you do all of your stuff, such as, you know, pickup games and whatnot. And there's all sorts of weird things that are scattered throughout the boat as well. There's like missions you do. There's different sorts of fun things you could find. There's of course like wheels where you could spin to get virtual currency in the game. There's even like a little mini arcade basketball hoop that you would find at an arcade or in my game room because I have one of those. And you can play the little version of mini basketball on there. And I thought that was really fun. Of course, you are put into the NBA. You're thrust into the spotlight. I haven't really gotten too far into that aspect of the game yet, but I like it. You know, it doesn't look all that great. It's not necessarily as bad as like Mortal Kombat 11's Crypt was on the Nintendo Switch, which was like just unlookable because it looked so bad, but it definitely is lagging in the other versions of the game, but it does work. It's smooth enough, and I like the fact that you can sort of just explore this big boat and there's always something to find and there's always something to do. So the My Career mode might actually be something that I play a good bit of. Now, there was one thing that I did not like was the fact that when you're playing in My Career mode in the collegiate level, which you're not going to be in very long, you can't adjust the camera, which I thought was really weird because you can adjust the camera once you get into the pros. Minor nitpick, but it did sort of affect how I played the game because the default camera that they use was something I didn't like, but it was pretty cool. I had fun with My Career mode, and I'm going to continue having fun with My Career mode. Now, as far as my team is concerned, I'm not playing that. I don't care about spending real world money to get cards of versions of players and better stuff. No, if you want someone to talk about my team, go watch another video. I'm sure somebody will cover it. I'm not covering it because I am not going to play it. Now, as far as what new stuff has been added into NBA 2K 2022, besides the whole revamping of the My Career mode, there's actually a few things that I noticed right off the bat. The first thing was that you have original arena announcers in the game now, which I think is really cool. So every NBA team, of course, has an arena announcer who's calling the game for the fans in attendance, and now it's all based on the actual game. So you'll hear the guy who calls the Knicks stuff in the arena. You'll hear the guy who calls the Hornets opponent stuff in the arena. It's little nice touches like that that I feel are really good. They also included some new animations. I believe that the block grab animation is brand new, because in all my time playing both NBA 2K21 on the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox Series X, because I did pick up both versions of the game, I never saw this animation. So I thought that was really nice, because that's something you see a lot in NBA games, where somebody blocks a shot and they grab the shot instead of sending the ball to the floor, depending on who the defensive player is. I noticed a lot of nice little animations like that that seem to be brand new. And of course, the big addition is the shot stick. Yes, they have gone back to a more proper shot stick, and I absolutely love it. It's so much better than last year's nonsense. So the way the shot stick works is, of course, dependent on things like how defensive pressure is, how wide open you are, what sort of shot it is, and what sort of player you're using. But basically, the shot stick is a lot more like older NBA 2K games, and it just feels like a welcome addition. Now, they have improved upon some things with this as well, maybe de-improved upon it. It just sort of depends on what sort of stuff you like. I think it's for the better, though. Well, basically, as the game progresses on and your players get more fatigued, your shot will actually take longer to put up. So it sort of adjusts the shot stick based on the fatigue meter, and I kind of like that. It sort of keeps you on your toes, and it makes you have to actually factor in stuff like fatigue and whatnot, so it makes for a better basketball experience. And that's what the game really sort of highlights for me, is the actual basketball experience, because now with this new shot stick, and now with these new animations and little things done with, such as like the announcers and whatnot, the game feels so much fun. Like, I am having fun playing just random games on the Nintendo Switch, because the basketball is just so quality. Passes feel much better, shots feel much better. It feels like an actual game of basketball, more so than just relying on statistical speaking for the players, because it's based on things like how your shot is, how fatigued your player is, what sort of position you're in, who is shooting the shot, and who is defending the shot. So I really like that. Now, of course, it is still metric based, it's based on statistics. So if you have a player like Steph Curry who's really good at hitting threes, even if he's heavily defended, he's probably still going to hit the three. But still, it feels like there's more strategy implemented into this game, and I think that makes for a much better basketball experience, because it makes the game fun again. It makes the game feel intuitive again. It gets you into the basketball game, and that's something that's very important to me when I'm playing a basketball game, because usually I don't care about all these other modes. I don't care about my career and trying to make a player be really good. I want to play as the players who are really good. And of course, the New York Knicks have gotten much better in this season, so maybe that's something that makes for more fun of an experience. But I definitely really like that about the game, is just how much better the basketball feels, especially compared to last year. Now, as far as the presentation is concerned on the Nintendo Switch, one of my fears was that they were essentially just going to do a roster update and not really change anything else, such as character models and whatnot. And right off the bat, I noticed that Julius Randle is a different character model than last year. He doesn't have that weird spiky hair. He actually has his official braids, which means that Julius is going into Juju mode. So like, that was a big thing for me. All the character models seem to be improved upon last year's. There's differences such as hair, and if somebody has different facial hair and whatnot. And I know those are minor things to a lot of people, but when you're playing a basketball game and you're looking for an authentic NBA experience, it's those little things that make you actually more invested in the game. Because if you're an NBA fan, you'll notice things like that. You'll notice things like new tattoos. You'll notice things like characters looking different than they did last year, because people change. So I really like that. And on top of that, of course, we have the arena announcers, and the commentary is really good as well. I think it's actually better than last year. I was playing a game against the Atlanta Hawks as the New York Knicks, and they of course talked about the fact that the Hawks bounced the Knicks in round 1 of the playoffs last year. So it felt natural. It felt really good. Things like the sideline interviews, the little player interviews, everything just feels good in this game. It feels like they took time, care, and effort into the Nintendo Switch version of the game, which you really can't say about a lot of companies. Now, as far as what issues I have with the game, there are a few issues. We of course have to start out with the 30 frames per second. Now, for me, it's not a huge deal. As long as it feels smooth, I can play 30 frame per second games. I prefer 60 frames per second, and some people won't be able to make that switch, and I totally understand that. I'm able to play the Nintendo Switch version of a game and then the Xbox Series X version of the game and really have no sort of qualms, but I know there are people who will have an issue with this, so your mileage will vary with that situation. I will say the game does feel very smooth at 30 frames per second, but it would have been nice to have 60 frames per second. One thing I don't really like in this version is the NBA Blacktop mode, which is essentially like a street ball thing. I really think it's time to sort of scrap that, or maybe just make it a little bit different. Make it more NBA Jam-like or NBA Ballers-like, because what's here now just feels like a normal basketball game, except there's a different setting. There's no like announcers or anything like that. No fizzle, no sort of flair with this. So it just sort of sucks in my opinion. It's not something that I'll want to continue playing. Like, it is nice to play on a blacktop, but they should have gone a bit more over the top with it. But the biggest problem with the Nintendo Switch version of NBA 2K 2022 has to be the load times, because Jesus Christ, man, some of these load times are insane. I have actually sat and waited like 2 minutes for something to load, like 2 minutes in real time. I'm going to show you some loading screens here. I'm obviously not going to make you sit through an entire loading session, but there are definitely some heavy loading sessions with the Nintendo Switch version of the game. Now, of course, part of that is due to the fact that this is a pretty graphically intensive game, and the Nintendo Switch is probably trying to struggle to keep up with it, as it is sort of older hardware. But still, it's definitely very noticeable. You have to be a little bit patient with the Nintendo Switch version of the game, and it's a massive download as well. When it's all said and done, after you download everything, it is over 40 gigs. So make sure you have an SD card with a lot of space on it. I, of course, just deleted NBA 2K 2021 because, I mean, I hadn't touched that game in a long time on the Switch. I just moved over to the Xbox Series X version of the game because it just played a little bit better. But yeah, make sure you have a lot of space on your Nintendo Switch memory card if you plan on picking up this game. But overall, I was pleasantly surprised with this. I initially downloaded it because I heard that there was like problems with some of the audio in the game and stuff. So I was like, oh great, we have a half-assed port here for the Nintendo Switch. But what's here is actually really good. If you're an NBA fan and you felt kind of burned by NBA 2K 2021, which a lot of people did, don't feel like a turnoff with this game, because I think they've improved so much stuff and the quality of basketball just feels so much better. The My Career, in my opinion, is much better too. I like all the cool little stuff that they've added, such as arena announcers and new animations in the game. It just feels like a great game of basketball. It's not that much different from previous entries in the franchise, of course, unless you sort of look at things like the shot stick and new animations and whatnot. But diehard basketball fans, you're gonna have a really good time with this game. Like I said, I did not like NBA 2K21 on the Switch. You could see my video talking about the game from last year, but NBA 2K 2022 is a return to form for the franchise, especially on the Nintendo Switch. So I definitely recommend it if you're an NBA fan, and I definitely think it's a vast improvement over last year's edition of the game. So let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this game, based on the footage you've seen, based on stuff like what I've been talking about. Is this something you're going to be interested in picking up? And of course, like I said, I do have a little story. I'm going to tell you guys about my professional basketball career. In 4th grade, I went to a private school, but like it wasn't like a fancy private school. It was kind of like a poverty private school that was just like a religious school, and they had a JV and they had a varsity basketball team, but they wanted something for 4th to 6th graders to play, and so they made like another team, and they had other schools in the area come and play us. Well, these other schools in the area obviously didn't get the memo that it was supposed to be like 4th to 6th grade, because I remember the first game that we played, our biggest guy was smaller than their smallest guy. Like, it was ridiculous. So we're down 10-0 in the first minute of the game. Nobody's doing anything. It's just all falling apart, and then I get the ball. There's 5 seconds on the shot clock. I do a fadeaway jumper like Jordan because I'm trying to beat the shot clock. Nothing but nylon. And it was at that point in time I realized my basketball career was done. I was happy with this. This was my shining moment. This was the greatest thing. I was the first person to score on this new team that ended up collapsing after 2 games because nobody had kids that would play from the 4th to 6th grade level, but it didn't matter. I was the first person to score. I could see it vivid, clear as day. I remember the court had carpet on it because it doubled as a church. Like, it was bizarre, dude. It was bizarre. But yeah, NBA 2K 2022, great game. Definitely recommend checking it out. I'm going to be playing it a lot more. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Go Knicks, F Trae Young. Later.